Sorry for the few-minute delay, a little technical difficulty. So, thank you for coming. Most of you received my invitation to you identifying that for those folks that get a September 1st increase, this presentation is for you. Is anybody here today that did not get the letter inviting you to come? And it's an open forum, so it is forum. Okay, so you folks that are here that did not, please understand that your rate increase goes into effect January 1st, and you will get an invitation letter to a similar presentation, and then you will get a letter outlining your rate increase 60 days in advance. So for you folks that are here today for the September 1st increase, you will get your detailed letter tomorrow outlining the exact dollar amount that it's going up by, your monthly service fee, and what your new total is going to be. Okay? All right, thank you for your patience. So keep in mind that Regency Oaks is a for-profit organization. We are owned, publicly owned, and we have the responsibility of our owners, and not necessarily in this order, let me back up. Our first priority is to you and your family here at Regency Oaks. We also have quite a large staff here, almost 300 employees, full-time, part-time. And then we have our shareholders, our owners, and our stockholders. So these are the three that must be in balance to operate a healthy business. We have a responsibility to all three of these constituencies. So the monthly service fees are the basis upon which the purpose and goals of each community is fulfilled. Your monthly service fee operates this community. So, why does your monthly service fee go up every year? Number one, our costs continue to outpace the consumer price index, referred to as the CPI. And by that, I mean CPI only measures the change in price paid by consumer for goods and services and reflects spending patterns. And so in your contract, it's outlined that every year your monthly service fee is going to go up. And in your instance, for the September 1st contracts, the verbiage is a little different than the newer contracts. And that states that the greater of CPI or 5%. Now in prior years, the last 2 years, CPI was more than 5%, however your contracts are capped at 5, okay? And so CPI only measures this market basket of goods to our front door. So we get our food delivered, and what's not included in CPI is the preparation and the serving of that food. So CPI does not include wages and benefits of our employees. So those costs in an operating business are above and beyond the consumer price index to operate proficiently. So you can see wages are, and I'll tell you this, wages are probably 70% of our operating budget. And we need to make sure that we pay our employees a fair and equitable wage, provide them with increased benefits year over year, be competitive in our local area, and make sure we are paying folks the right wage. We want to retain them, we want them to come here, and we want them to stay here. So, the most recent published CPI comes out mid-month after the full month. So the Consumer Price Index for May of 2024 was published June 12th. So since this is the most recent published report, this is the one we're going to use for your rate increase because I need to provide you with a 60-day notice. If it changes in the next 2 months, whether it goes up or goes down, that is irrelevant for your rate increase. This is the index that we're going to use. There's multiple tables, a lot of detail, but in your contracts, we use the CPI for all urban consumers. It's called a US city average, and it's an all items line. It's rolling everything up. Your fuel, your food, your utilities, and what that does is it measures year over year, not month over month. So you look at last year's index of May of 2023 to this year's May index, and it came up at 3.3%. That's what CPI is. So, again, this only applies to September 1st. It'll be very different for January 1st. And it's limited again to the greater of 5% or the CPI we just spoke about. Again, the CPI is 3.3%. However, your September 1st monthly service fee increase is going to go to the 5%, the maximum. This next slide, it's my responsibility to explain to you why do I need to operate at a higher percentage rate and increase your monthly service fee. So, this is a year over year, 1 quarter to 1 quarter. So I'm trying to do a comparative analysis, same that the CPI year over year. So what we're looking at is last year's prices for Q1 to this year's costing for Q1. So you can see that our food costs per resident day are actually running 5.8%. It's 10% of our operating budget. Our insurance has gone up 11.7%, and that's about 5% of our budget. If you notice, our utilities have gone down year over year, quarter to quarter. However, as I've been here several years, the utilities tend to really ramp up in the summertime, so by end of year, we're hoping it will not be negative. But we have implemented some good savings programs. So we are trying to keep the utilities lower year over year, which I expect that to happen. I do not expect to have much of a savings. However, our property taxes have gone up almost 4%, and our total wages and benefits together are 5.8%. So you can see that my wages and benefits are the largest portion of my operating budget again. So I want to be able to increase my benefits to my employees. Most of that is an employer expense. We try not to pass through too much. And our merit increases. We want to award our employees year over year for staying here. We give them merit increases in March of every year. And we still need to be competitive in the wage market. So certain positions that might turn over may need to be paid at a higher rate to attract appropriate people. All other non-wage expenses, those are the expenses that sometimes I talk about in forum that the managers are responsible for. It's our supplies, our services, our maintenance, everything else. You know, we have quite a list of expenses that has gone up 8%, and a lot of times vendors that we use that provide us services increase their rates, and generally they're going up over 5%. So you can see here now that the community inflation rate is 5.3%. So the max that I can do is ask you to increase your monthly service fee by 5%. I'll work on the operating budget for the difference and still work with the owners at budget time to provide them with a profitable margin. Okay. So, speaking about the budget, how does it work? So we start by putting in our revenue figures. We now know what our September 1st increase average amount earned is going to be. There's only about 30% of our residents living here that are under this contract. So 70% are at a different contract, and that's CPI plus 2%. That increase could be more, could be less. Hopefully it's about the same. So we're coming into budget season in August. We start plugging in what we know, what we estimate things to be, and then we also look at our expenses year to date. We talk to our vendors and contractors and kind of decide also using CPI what inflationary factor we want to use for our expenses. So then we're going to go back in and re-review all of our labor. What's our hourly rate for certain positions? We will go line by line, position by position, make sure we don't need to do a wage adjustment. What type of increase can we afford to pay them? Obviously, we want to go more, not less, help retain our employees. And then our non-controllable costs, those include insurance and taxes. Our LCS, my LCS counterparts work with the utility companies, the insurance companies. They're monitoring those type of non-controllable. We call them non-controllable here because I can't control those costs. I mean, it's a little bit self-explanatory, but all of our other expenses are controllable by every manager and department that spends the money here at Regency Oaks. So then we decide, how much is gonna be reinvested back into the property. We develop what we call a capital budget. We ask the residents to make their wish lists, and we'll incorporate everything that we know that we need to maintain the property, and we also want to improve the property and be able to provide that list to our owners to obtain a large capital budget, which fluctuates significantly year over year. And then we have to balance the mission and the margin, and that's where we need to provide a profitable bottom line to our owners, and we talk about what type of margin are they looking for. Of course, they want to see growth year over year. That's what we'll strive for. So, there are ways for us to try and be more efficient and cut spending. As operators, we do that weekly with our meetings, but I can't stress enough to you folks here, you bring a lot of experience to the table. You see things. I have many more eyes and ears than me just walking to and from and around. So I encourage that you share your ideas through the resident committees. There's one for every department. There's avenues to hear your voice, hear your concerns, hear your recommendations. Encourage your friends and neighbors. If they are unhappy about something, have them go to the source, go to the committee, be communicative, okay? We strive to improve our customer service. There's always room to improve. We can take constructive criticism. We need to, right? So by leveraging your ideas and your knowledge is our greatest resource to help you be more satisfied as well. And then you have ownership here. Technically, you have a voice. We're very fully transparent, and we're just striving to make the community greater. So one thing that you all can do to help keep occupancy growing, because that's going to increase our revenues, is keep in mind family and friends that you can refer here to Regency Oaks. We pay a $3,000 stipend to every resident that refers, and you can do 1 or 10. So just want to remind folks about that as well. So I know this is short, but I think it was to the point. But I'm open for questions at this time. Any concerns, thoughts, recommendations? I can't reiterate enough to please join the resident committees. You don't have to chair it. attend the forums, the platforms, with email, constructive criticism, we'll take. Yes, ma'am, Jean.
I just have a question about the shareholders, because I work for other corporations. Do we have the same shareholders under the new company, Health Peak?
So our ownership is Health Peak. So we're 100% owned by Health Peak. Our shareholders are people that outside are people that are buying the stock that are supporting the company. And so if you follow Peak stock, they're very dynamic in their quarterly reportings. You can sign up for them to read a report. They do an open forum phone call. I believe at this point in time, we're 10% of the operating revenue of the entire, of Peak. And you can listen in on those calls, and they do pay dividend. You know, when they do the quarterly reportings, dividends have been paid. So that's a positive all the way from you, your family, our employees, and our ownership. So tomorrow you'll receive your letter outlining the exact dollar amount that'll go into effect for your September 1st bill. And if any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. I will meet with you if you have questions about your contract and your contract benefits. I do that quite frequently, and please don't hesitate to call me.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes, sir, in the back of the room.
What's your name?
I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself.
What's your name?
Yes, sir. So my name is Sherry Schweitzo, Director of Financial Services here at Regency Oaks. I've been here 7 years, and it's been a happy 7. So thank you, folks. Thank you for coming.